Recording in progress.
You got us there, Fred?
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, May 14th to order. And the first item is approval of the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any change? I will call attention, there's an item number 13 that was added after we warned the meeting. It's a review of the hydropower project, and there was an anticipated executive session that we will not hold tonight. Anything else? All in favor of approving the agenda with the two minor changes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Approval of the consent agenda is next.
I move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I will call attention to a couple things that are on here. And the Festival on the Green, scheduled for the 3rd to the 13th of July, is on here as part of the consent agenda. Also, the summer market, and I see we have representation. I don't know, maybe you'd like to just say a little something about the summer market so that people that are watching know that we do have a summer market coming, and I'm sure you want to say something about it?
Sure, I'd love to.
Yeah, come on up.
Want me to come up? Okay. All right. Well, good evening. I'm Kelly Flynn, and I am one of the co-directors of the Better Middlebury Partnership. And so we are hoping to get your approval on the permit that I submitted for the summer markets, which are going to be running 2 days a week during the summer. It's going to be Wednesday evenings. There is a slight change to the permit. I put 3 to 7, and we're thinking of moving it back a little bit to 4 to 8, so that we don't conflict with any of the traffic for schools, especially in the early part of the summer. And then Saturday mornings, and both markets are going to be located at Triumph Park, and we are working on secondary backup inclement space. Lots and lots of energy. We've hired a market manager, and she's coming up with really, really fun ideas, and it should be very dynamic. So hopefully it's going to be a spot to come together after work and after camp. and then just sort of when you first wake up in the morning and you just want to stroll around town. So yeah. Do you have any questions? I can talk about this for a long time.
Oh, no, I'm
But I
not
know
looking
you
for
have-
that. I'm looking for a plug for people
I
that
have-
are out there watching. You got
I
a
have
question?
just one thing. How's it coming along with arranging Saturday morning market?
In terms of
Being able to pull that off, being able to do that
with
With-
a partnership or just
with a partnership.
Unfortunately, we found out yesterday morning that they are not interested in collaborating.
They're what?
They're not interested in collaborating with a
They
market.
want to have their own market,
Yeah.
whatever they have. So
Yeah.
we've been dealing with them for.
They were close.
Yeah, it was
They were really
unfortunate.
They were very
Close.
close, yeah.
We've been close. We've been on the threshold.
Oh, they were really
several
close.
times. Oh, so were we.
Yeah, we were really hopeful, and unfortunately, they didn't actually give us a reason. So
I think until you prove it, you need to prove that that you're going to get a good flow of people through there on a Saturday.
So
morning.
you're going to go ahead with a Saturday market.
we're going to go ahead because we feel like we have enough. We have enough momentum, we have enough vendors, and then we're going to hope that they see what happens. I mean, we left it as great, hopefully we can circle back around in the fall.
Great.
So,
Okay.
yeah. And
Good.
it was unfortunate. We were really hopeful. We put a lot of work into it, but yeah, so we're excited.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It's going to be a busy summer for you.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it certainly is. But I'm looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it.
We're looking forward to it.
Fred's
Thank
hand
you.
is up.
Okay.
Fred?
Fred has his hand up.
Hi,
Hi.
hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we hear you, Fred.
I noticed in the public assembly permits for the festival and the summer markets that there's going to be an overlap during festival and read. And the idea of church is great, but I hope the rest of the board would agree that during Festival of the Green, your collaboration would give them precedence to what they need for that long-standing event.
I'm glad you brought that up. We have decided to not do our market during the peasant market because they were very we just decided that was the best for both of our events. And then the Festival on the Green, we started to talk about how we could collaborate and make it safe and possibly running both events. And they went to their board, and I was actually hoping they would be here tonight so I could talk to them, but I will just follow up with them. So we are going to give deference to, their event.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
The other thing is Memorial Day Parade for everybody out there watching. That's coming up. So that'll be 7 to 12:30. I assume the parade won't actually be running at 7, but it'll be Monday morning, the 27th, starting at 9. So other than that, if there's anything else anybody'd like to highlight? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Citizen comments. Is there anybody here for something not on the agenda? Yes, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura Asermally. Speaking of Memorial Day weekend, the Affordable Housing Coalition of Faith Groups is holding another community conversation to promote those 3 strategies that we've told you about that homeowners could pursue right now to help alleviate our housing crisis, which include Home Share Vermont, sharing your home, building an accessory dwelling unit or apartment, and then supporting tiny houses, which could be an accessory dwelling unit. And the Career Center has been building a tiny house, as you know, and it will be on display during the Memorial Day Parade. Not in the parade, but in the parking lot of the counseling service at Cross Street. And you can tour it and see what they've been working on. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Pretty cool.
Laura, when is the next get together of that group?
It aims to meet on the first Monday of the month at 7:00 at the Unitarian Church. And they are holding their 3rd community conversation, to storytell about those 3 options on June 9th, which is a Sunday afternoon at 4:00, but this time in Vergennes at St. Peter's. So we're trying to cycle through the county.
Sure.
The last 2 were in Middlebury, and at the Congregational Church, but we're hoping to get to Bristol also eventually with that community conversation to promote those 3 options. And that's what the faith groups are trying to do to address the housing crisis in Addison County.
Great. I got a quick question, Laura. I like the idea about the home sharing, but if you're talking about addition to an existing dwelling,
Yes.
then we have to get into the zoning and.
No, not for an accessory dwelling unit.
Approved.
But you're right, like if it's going to be like a separate addition of a tiny house, that needs to be zoned properly. And the good news is that the Addison County Regional Planning Commission has created a fantastic guide, to accessory dwelling units with a link to all the zoning regs related to that, which can also inform you about tiny house placement. So they're a good resource to go to.
Is there info on their website?
It's on their website, and you can also just contact the Planning Commission and talk to somebody there.
Thank you.
Yep. Did you have anything else?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any hands up out there?
No.
No. Okay. Next is appointment of Middlebury's representatives to the Addison County Regional Emergency Management Commission. Addison County Regional Planning Commission. has requested the town of Middlebury appoint 2 designees for the Addison County Regional Emergency Management Commission. The ACRPC is staffed and supported by the Regional Planning Commission. Commission has 2 appointed representatives for each municipality in the county, including the local emergency management director coordinator and a representative from the local emergency management services community. We have to do the appointment by June 1st, and our town emergency management director is Chief Covey, so he would be one of our town's designees, and we need to identify and appoint the second designee.
David Shaw, Fire Chief, has been the second.
And do you know if I didn't reach out to him, I assume he's willing to continue to serve. Those are 2 very experienced, and they're in the field of emergency management. So
We're not gonna do better than that.
I would suggest that we go ahead and do that if I have a motion. Unless somebody else.
I'll move to appoint Chief Jason Covey, the town of Middlebury's current emergency management director, and Chief Shaw, current chief of our fire department, as the town's designees to the Addison County Regional Emergency Management Commission.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments on it? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Are there really 42 people on that board? 2 per town for 21 towns? It's a lot. Oi,
Must be quite a meeting, huh?
I would say. Cheapers.
Okay, and yeah, Emily's with us, so we'll ask Emily to join us for some infrastructure committee issues. Good evening, Emily.
Hi.
You can't,
Short and sweet for me on here tonight.
yeah, well, good. Got a Bruins game.
So the first is the Halliday Road culvert replacement bid in construction phase engineering proposal with Otter Creek Engineering, seeking approval for that proposal for a total of $31,500. That project is currently out to bid, so we are anticipating a pretty good turnout from contractors that closes next week.
I'll move to approve the proposed amended engineering agreement with Otter Creek Engineering for the bid and construction phases of the Halliday Road culvert project for $31,500.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next one, Emily.
Okay. Next is approval of the state aid for town highways. This is just an annual agreement that we agree with the state. We'll appropriate certain funds to pay for highway and sidewalk efforts in the town, and in combination with that, they set aside funding for grants for class 1, 2, and 3 town highways. And so this is just the annual agreement that we make with them. And I included in this a similar agreement that we had a month ago, maybe. You folks were requesting the road scoring maps. So I included that in this, and also the road matrix that we use. And I think that's a pretty large spreadsheet, and it might not entirely make sense, but that's how all of the roads are tracked, and mileage and widths and whatnot are computed.
Cool.
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's helpful.
I'll move to approve the town of Middlebury's annual State of Vermont State Financial Plan for the maintenance and construction of its town highways.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, and then looks like a brief review of project updates, Emily?
Yeah, just a quick update. South Street is plodding along. They had to bring in a drill rig to get through the ledge. It was known to be there and it matched the profiling pretty closely, but they have been drilling it sort of four holes to a foot to be able to pop it better with a hammer. So they're closing that out. They had hoped to end it on Friday, but today they were pretty close to the southern limit, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're through with the drilling and can just move on with hammering and start installing the pipe again. It's been slow progress, just 1 or 2 sticks of pipe a day while they're waiting for that drill rig to get a head start on them. But they have temporary water run now. They're tying the services into that, so they can do the swap over. And then they'll run all the 12-inch main, and we've been working around some different solutions for the Chittenden Park and Benedict area, trying to figure out the best approach for phasing that aspect of it. The location of infrastructure in the ground is not entirely accurate to what we have mapped or engineered, so we've had to be creative in a few locations to still get our isolation distances met that are needed for sewer and stormwater and gas. But for the most part, we're working through it pretty easily.
I'm sure that didn't surprise you, though.
It did not surprise us. It's such an old network down
Right.
there. It was definitely, we knew there were going to be a lot of unknowns. So it's just a little bit frustrating when things take longer than anticipated because you can't necessarily find where it goes.
Yeah. Okay. And then we're looking at early June for water wastewater budget proposal.
Yeah, so we had our first meeting at infrastructure for the water wastewater budget on May 2nd. We are circling back on the 23rd to discuss it again and then hopefully get recommendations for the select board at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a good time for anyone who wants to know what goes into determining those rates and the budget for the year. This is a great time to come to meetings and be a part of the conversation.
Any questions of Emily? Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Okay. Christopher and your team, welcome.
Not Christopher, unless you're angry with me, and you can't be angry with me yet because I just started talking. So, good evening, everyone. Chris Matrick. I'm the district ranger on the Rochester and Middlebury Ranger districts for the Green Mountain National Forest. And I was just saying to these guys, it's been a long time since I've been in front of the Middlebury Selectboard. I think it was before COVID. So time flies when you're having fun, as they say. Here tonight to talk to you primarily about 2 things and anything else that you would like to talk about. The first is what Lindsay Ray and Suzanne behind me are going to talk about is the Northern Escarpment Ecological Restoration and Fire Resilience Project. I had to pick it up and look at it so I would remember the name of it. And then I'm going to start out with just a little conversation about the Abbey Pond Trail. So the Abbey Pond Trail in last summer's storms took the brunt of those rains. After the first storm, I went out and looked at it and it was washed, the lower section was washed up, but the bridge was still there. After the second storm, we sent somebody out and the bridge was nowhere to be found. So there's no bridge at that crossing now. And we did assess the trail recently, just a couple weeks ago, walked in. The lower section, which is primarily on Carrera's land, is heavily washed out. It's been sort of repaired in a couple of locations. The gentleman who's, I guess, living in the parking lot there is done some very artistic stone masonry work up there in a couple of places, and I think he's done some of the repairs to the trail. But once you get beyond the bridge, as the trail starts to go where the bridge was anyways, where the trail starts to go up close to the stream, the tread is entirely washed out. And there's about a 25-foot section of trail that's just gone entirely. You're walking in the stream to get across there. Once you get beyond the second crossing, that's the rock hop up there, it's much better. It needs some maintenance. We're at a crossroads and trying to figure out what to do with that trail. Reconstructing the trail would probably run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And to its previous state. We do have something called a Class 1 trail, which is an unmaintained trail, which is we would sign it that it's sort of a hike at your own risk trail. We wouldn't put any effort into reestablishing the tread. We would want to do some watershed protection so that it doesn't get any worse. Install some water bars and do some basic maintenance, but we wouldn't try to restore the tread. And I have, my staff has given me their input, and I've put off any kind of decision on what to do because I wanted to come here and hear whether the town had any particular preference or interest in, the level of trail that is there, or if you have no real interest and don't care one way or the other about what state it is left in, or whether it's a Class 1 no trail or some attempt to make it a little bit more than a Class 1 trail. The right of way that we have to get in there would cease if we were to walk away from it. If we were to decommission that trail, the rights of way that the Forest Service has to access in there, use that parking lot, and the trail that crosses Carrera's land would cease. So there would be no public access in there. It would revert to the private landowner. So I don't need an answer this evening on that because I didn't provide you a lot of detail before that. But if you do have any particular interest, please feel free to provide it to me. I don't have any plans to make any kind of final decision until sometime this fall. I'm kind of waiting to see if we have a repeat of this summer, last summer, this summer. I certainly hope not. That might give us a little bit more information, but happy to take any thoughts or comments you have now. Andy?
Yeah, I regret to confess that I have hiked that despite the sign saying that I shouldn't have, and agree that the condition is more difficult than it has been previously.
Yeah.
I think that I would certainly prefer there to be public access, even if only for folks that can handle a more rugged trail.
Okay.
I think it's one of my favorite trails.
Yeah.
And I have lots and lots of friends that hike that trail. It's a great trail. Whatever you could do to make it so we still have access to it and hike it. It's the most accessible, easily and quickest accessible trail of a challenge to hike.
Right.
So
it's just a little more challenging than it was.
Yeah.
okay.
Until you
That's
make
fair.
that second crossing. After that, it's pretty
That's
much
right.
the same, but getting to that point is a little tricky.
Is it well used before this storm happened?
It's a well-used trail. I mean, you kind of have to know that it's there. I think it's the people who know about it who use it, because it's not in an area that's trail heavy, like in the Musalamu National Recreation Area where there are lots of trails, right? That they get a lot of use. I think it's the people who know that it's there, who pass that, who go down 116, see the sign, go in. But it is a well-used trail, and it goes to a very, very beautiful spot.
it's pretty.
And we don't actually have an actual amount, how much it's going to be to make it a Class 1 or?
A Class 1 would be, I think if we were to downgrade it to a Class 1 trail, we wouldn't replace the bridge. There's a pretty accessible rock hop there right now. We would need to do some work on the trail where it's on private land, where it's the trail is in a gravel pit. So it washed out very easily, and it's got to find its bottom. It's eroding down. And so it might be that we want to lower the bed of the trail down to meet where the water has taken it to. And I would need one of my engineers to go out there and have a look at it. There would be some expense to it, but it wouldn't be a great expense. The great expense would be if we were trying to restore the tread uphill because the only way, I'm not sure how we would get the material in there to do it. Again, I'm happy to, if you have other thoughts, moving forward, Kathleen knows how to get a hold of me. You can send me an email message and I'm happy to take it. Like I said, I'm not going to make any decision until sometime this fall.
In general, how did the forest survive last summer?
It depended, Ripton, Hancock, and East Middlebury, East Middlebury took the brunt of it on the Rochester Middlebury district. We still have roads that are closed. We're still waiting for emergency road funding to restore some of the roads. Dragon Brook Road is one of them. You saw the Oak Ridge parking lot got constructed and then washed out and then reconstructed in the course of about 3 months. But Abbey Pond Trail was the one trail that really took a beating. And then a little bit on the Oak Ridge Trail in Ripton, lost a culvert up there. But
Okay.
We do have some funding we're expecting this fall to make the repairs to the roads anyways.
Lots of down trees with firewood.
Lots of down trees with firewood, yeah. That's an annual thing every
Yes.
year.
Yep.
Do you have
So-
a lot of people going in, cutting firewood out? Do you give a lot of permits for that?
Yeah, we do. We probably have a lot of people who aren't getting a permit also and doing it. But once we swing the gates in the springtime on the roads and we, buck our way through to open the road over the next month or so, there's a lot of firewood collection that goes on. And we sell a lot of firewood permits.
Yeah, good.
Yep. I'm going to pass it to Lindsay Ray and Suzanne to talk about the Northern Escarpment Project, because that's really what we wanted to bring to your attention and let you know about and get some feedback on. So take it away.
Does it work if I stand and present at the map?
Sure. If you can state your name for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Suzanne Gifford, ecologist for Green Mountain National Forest.
And hello, Lindsay Ray Sylvia. I'm a fire and fuels technician on the Green Mountain National Forest.
So we sent out a couple maps and a little bit of information ahead of time. But the escarpment, this is the northern portion of the escarpment. The escarpment refers to this really amazing geographical feature where we've got the Champlain Valley coming across and then we pop up an elevation to the Green Mountains. And it's this narrow feature that extends north-south down the length of the National Forest with some of the most pronounced and best ecological examples up here in this area. And one of the things that makes this special is its fire history. We collected a red pine cross-section, which is this one here, and it's also this dead tree, this stag here, picture that has a fire scar, which is actually shows a set of 4 fire scars. Can you speak up too? Sure, absolutely. So I put sticky notes. I don't know if they'll stay, but you're welcome to pass that around and take a look. This tree,
cool.
the pith germinated at around, I think it says 1825. And then at some point the tree had debris probably piled up on this uphill side, and a fire came through and it injured the tree, came through the bark. So red pines are very fire resistant, but if they get enough debris burning right against their trunk, they will scar. And they're really good at healing and recovering from the scar. You can see that this is what this guy's saying too. They work on healing around that, but once they have that opening, they are susceptible to subsequent fire scarring. So they stand in one point in space. This is just one point, but they record that history as they grow and change. So this particular tree in this particular spot recorded 4 fires about 20 years apart until the last one that is 1925. And then we see a long period up until 2017, which is when this tree died, but actually we don't see any charring on the bark either. So 2023, when it was collected, where we had no fires at all. What happens in that time interval when we cut off the fire is we start to lose this really unique ecology in this site. The pitch pines, the blueberries, the azaleas, the understory of spring ephemerals start to get crowded out by fire
non-resistant species, and the very common species, the maples, the beeches, start to come in and crowd out and shade out. They leaf out sooner, they cover big areas. They start to have an advantage over some of these dry and fire-loving species. So we are in the pre-proposal phase of this, pre-planning phase, which is why there's a bunch of different types of polygons on this map. We haven't set out a proposal yet. We're field inventorying. We've got from multiple perspectives, including ecology, including access for potential operations. Other folks are looking at the botany and all the other resources, the vernal pools and everything else we'll need to take into consideration to manage this. But we are looking toward planning a set of prescribed burns. In some areas, probably some cutting to remove some of the bigger, where we're seeing more of an ecological departure from this old fire regime, to open up these canopies and allow these fire adapted species to flourish.
Do you think that these were just lightning strike fires?
It's such a great question. The fire regime does seem to change a little bit after European settlement.
Yeah.
It seems to become more frequent for a little while and then gets completely cut off when our good friend Smokey Bear showed up, right? So indigenous burning is certainly part of the story, but we do see a lot of lightning scars out there. There is every reason to believe that there would be natural ignitions. You can imagine storms coming across, right? Across Lake Champlain, and then this is the high point that they're encountering. So I think it was a combination historically.
And this is a 200-year-old tree.
Correct.
They don't grow very much, do they?
It's wild. Yeah, you can't judge tree age by size. Yeah, I poured last summer a red spruce that was this big. I have a picture of my hat next to it, 150 years old. Yeah, so it totally depends on the condition, how much sun they're getting. We've got another site where we've got some experimental chestnuts growing, and where they're in the open, they're huge and they've fallen down. And growing back up again and bearing fruit in the forest where they were planted at the same time. Some of them are still little sprigs. So yeah, trees are amazing.
Yeah.
When was the last time?
One of the handouts mentions the Dome site, which is the very extreme southern part of the Green Mountain National Forest. So not on this map. I'm gesturing this map, but it's way far south. It's on the Massachusetts border. And we've conducted very similar management on that site. 2 prescribed burns so far. The first was in 2019 and the second in 2022. So they have a restoration phase where we're slowly introducing these relatively light fires, surface fires, and watching the vegetation change, pausing between years, letting the vegetation adjust. We're seeing some really great response in the mid-story and the understory on that site. And management here will be modeled after that experience.
That's great.
How do you make a minimal fire?
I'd like to pass it to Lindsay. Go ahead, our fire.
Sure, yeah. Here on the Green Mountain National Forest and across the nation, we do conduct prescribed fire on a regular basis. Here on our forest in Vermont, it's mostly on wildlife openings. But as Suzanne mentioned, we have been conducting more prescribed fire on that broader landscape for oak restoration. And when we do such work, it's called prescribed fire. So we have a prescription. We take into account the fuels on the ground, which means the leaf litter, the type of vegetation, the slope, climatological influences, drought, as well as time of year. And we use fire behavior modeling as well as our previous fire effects analysis and fire behavior assessments to write a prescription to achieve either a low severity fire on the ground or more moderate. So that's part of, I think that addresses your question.
So we haven't had fires in 100 years. That's a lot of fuel on the grounds, right?
Well,
I mean,
some do decompose, right?
Yes.
And become forest floor matter, soil material. So
when you do these burns, how many acres do you do at a time?
Well, for the example of the dome that Suzanne provided down in southern Vermont, is approximately 200 acres. That's a general scale that we have been conducting.
So you've set priorities where you're going to do it, because 200 acres at a time, you're going to have to do several hundred fires to just do the escarpment, right?
Well, that's one example for the escarpment. We actually hope to implement prescribed fire on a larger scale at one day at a time, for a few reasons. Cost, be more efficient with our resources, with our wildland firefighters that we bring in from out of the area, as well as our local staffed firefighters, and really taking opportunity of our very small burns, high fire danger days that are the best used to achieve like the effects that we'd like. So we have a very short window of time in the spring or sometimes fall for achieving prescribed fire effects. So having those larger acre units that we'd call would be most advantageous.
And you're briefing many of the towns, and is that just to let us know what you're planning on doing? Okay. Where's Chief Shaw? He needs to be here.
Yeah, to give you opportunity to voice any concerns, which you'll have in the future. This will go through the NEPA process, the regular process. There'll be opportunity for public comment. There'll be an official proposal giving more detail on what exactly and where exactly we're planning to work. And there's also opportunity for cross-boundary collaboration. Because of the way this is set up, you see the gaps in forest ownership. The green is the national forest. If private or towns or others are interested, there are opportunities to manage similarly across boundaries.
I'd like to, oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say, for example, with that cross-boundary collaboration, we're trying to work with Keewaydin, because they're a big landowner and they have a lot of this particular natural community on their forest type. So we've reached out to them and have meetings planned with them as well. And there would be, so this will go through the National Environmental Policy Act review process. So there'll be a public comment period. There'll probably be a public meeting in a couple of locations. When we get a specific proposed action, we'll be outreaching to all the adjacent landowners to make sure that they're aware of what we're proposing and have the opportunity to provide us input and address any concerns that folks have.
I assume these fires are just basically controlled enough that they're just burning the ground cover, correct? I mean, you're only doing that. And so how long does it take the forest floor to recover after the fire? Is it immediate? Is it the next spring? Or?
It is within days of a little bit of moisture, precipitation, that vegetation just begins to green up and grow with vigor.
Do you let the recovery happen on its own, or do you do any plantings and like blueberries and introducing other species of trees and things like that?
At this point, we're not planning to plant anything. Yeah. The potential should be there. In fact, actually the fire, so pitch pine is such a great example. They have serotinous cones, so the cones are closed up, and they need the heat to release their cones, but they also need mineral soil to germinate. So the two go hand in hand. I'm not thinking we're going to need to do any planting. I think we could keep that option open in the future if we're not getting the response we want, but that would be a big surprise here because there's so much potential in the landscape. We're seeing it. It's just stunted. We see these little, I call them sad blueberries. You're hiking around and you just see these little sad blueberries in the understory. They're still hanging on, but they're not flowering. They're not fruiting. So they're not providing for pollinators. They're not providing for bears or other species birds that might appreciate the fruits. Same is true with our beautiful early azalea. Rhododendron prinophyllum is the host species for a rare bee. But in a lot of places, we see them persisting but not flowering. And so if they don't flower, they're of no use to the bee. We think that's due to the crowding and shading out by the overstory species, as well as potentially there might be an element of deer browse as well, which will be interesting to track side by side with the fire.
We probably would want to keep our options open on some kind of the door open for planting in some of those oak communities, depending on what our silviculturist says when he gets out there. If you're trying to convert something from beech to oak, maybe. And then I can tell back to your question of how quickly does it recover. So I was just yesterday at one of our openings that we burned, and it was black, right? When they got done, it was black. And I was kneeling in grass that was about this tall, and I was worried about ticks. So, I mean, the recovery is
I thought.
unbelievable
Yep.
right after them.
And while the primary purpose of this project, Suzanne and I over the past few years have been collaborating on this project area, while the primary area of interest is ecological restoration of these fire adapted communities, we also have a lens on what the future holds for climate change and resilience to certain events. Hazardous fuels is one of those key components that we're looking at. As the forest changes, we also want to look forward to what kind of fire occurrence may increase, may stay the same, but it's part of our job with the National Forest Service, with National Forest Lands, and as a wildland firefighting management unit, we want to look forward and find areas that may be more susceptible or have an increased risk of wildfire. So that's secondary to this project, but it's certainly a key component.
Do you have an expectation for how long the NEPA process will take and when this might start?
We're looking at hoping to get to a decision in 2026.
Okay.
Right.
We just discussed that, yeah.
All right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's 2020, sort of the September, fall 2026, with implementation beginning if it's approved in 2027.
Spring 27. Okay.
And I would want to know, and I can work with Kathleen on this, it's like when we do put that kind of scoping notice as part of the National Environmental Policy Act, like who at the town would get it. We would typically send it to like the town manager, in this case, the town manager. Sometimes the planning commissions want to know, sometimes they don't. The Conservation Commission we would certainly send it to, but if there are other entities in town related to town government, it'd be helpful for me to know that, so we're sending it to the right people.
Well, I hope you stay around long enough to see this project through.
Hope who does.
You guys.
We're here, we're
You're
here
talking,
for it.
well,
She can't wait to start a fire.
3 more years.
That should make a mean campfire.
It is a long planning window. We've
Yeah.
been working on it for a couple of years already. And, 2 to 3 more years.
NEPA is an onerous process.
I've been through it.
Yeah.
So
This is a rugged area, there aren't a lot of us on the National Forest. Not a lot of capacity, but we want to get out there, we want to check it out, we want to do it right by the resource. We want to give our other specialists the opportunity to get out there and check on their resource areas as well and make sure we're avoiding the places we need to and having the effect that we've set out to have.
Cool.
thank you for the brief.
Yeah,
Thank you.
all.
Really
Appreciate
interesting.
being here.
Thanks.
Interesting.
And we can we'll leave that map.
Yeah, happy to
You wanna
leave it.
leave it here?
Good, we'll keep it on display.
And we can leave those handouts too, in case some of the members of the public want to grab them.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You can't leave the cookie though.
Don't I?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, look at that.
We've done that a couple.
I know.
Okay, Chief and Laura. Reporting out on the Public Health and Safety Committee.
Right. So we had a great meeting. And you can see the attendees behind me.
All there.
Yes. And so the first thing I want to say is that the committee meets quarterly, and it's composed of stakeholders from the agencies that talk about or are concerned about public health and safety. So we have representatives from the college, from MREMS, from the Regional Planning Commission, Porter Hospital, and ourselves, and it's a good committee, and it allows for the kind of conversation we just had at our last meeting, where we had a neighborhood that was concerned about calming traffic. They're not the only neighborhood that's concerned about calming traffic. So that was a large part of what we discussed. And Dan was there as your liaison alternate to that committee. So we did make a motion at that meeting, which you can see in your packet, and I'm going to read it. You know, that the resolution proposed is that the select board have the town paint a white line and appropriate stenciling to delineate a bike and pedestrian walkway on the east side of Rogers Road, to install 2 speed bumps on Rogers Road and 2 speed humps at crosswalks on Butt Off Drive. So we're recommending that to you, that we support that and would like you to support that too. And some of that is already started. And if you've been on Rogers Road, you've seen the bumps and they're working, they're definitely working. And the neighborhood is grateful, and they have expressed their gratitude to you in a letter. And Wendy, who helps organize the neighborhood, spoke to that. And I'm not sure, if there's more that they want to say that I haven't already said. But we want to keep going, because it's a good pilot, to see how those bumps work, because we might put them in other places. They are seasonal in their placement. So in the winter, when we need to do paving, we would take them up. But I think that's the intent. And maybe we can get more, or we could rotate them as we do some of our other devices. So that's one part of it. And then, of course, the striping of the white line creates kind of an ad hoc sidewalk, or a safety zone for people to walk, and it would just be on one side of the road. And this neighborhood has done a really good job of coming with visuals and having done the research on showing us this being done somewhere else and working. And I would say that our Public Works Department supports it and is planning on it, so we want to experiment with that. We talked about the possibility of restoring the dividing line that used to be on Rogers Road and decided not to go in that direction. We talked about just what will continue to be an ongoing dilemma of traffic congestion in the school zone on Route 7 and the bypass attraction, of going down Rogers Road and through Butt Off. So knowing that, we're just taking this measure to calm traffic down. And at the same time, just looking at how we keep traffic flowing on Route 7. And that has to do with your lighting management on Route 7. So that was a large part of what we talked about. And that led to some discussion of just really, again, managing traffic in the school zone. We noted that the intersection at Middle Road, where the middle school comes in, is like, we know a problem still with crossing at that intersection, and trying to make that work for both traffic and pedestrians is really hard. We talked about getting a crossing guard there, but it's really hard to find that kind of person. We talked about, do we put signage in the corridor that says this is a school zone, so people are reminded that you have entered a school zone and to be more careful in that school zone. We talk a lot about signage, don't we? And it's a good opportunity to talk about what signage works and what doesn't, and what could we do and what can't we do. So I don't know, Chief, if you want to say anything more about any of that, but when we can, when we do have an opportunity to make an improvement with signage, we do. Or if we can do other low-hanging fruit, like you've seen with the crosswalk safety flags that are, down on Main Street and in other intersections to help signal to motorists to watch out. We try to do those things. And we thank you for supporting that and continuing other measures. So striping is really important, and I know that we've been really weather stressed in terms of getting to striping projects or even equipment wise, but it makes a big difference, to restore the fog lines, to make sure that shoulders are well maintained. Having the street sweeping that just happened is really important and really makes a difference for everybody using our pathways. So that was a big part of our discussion, just helping to calm traffic, looking at our intersections and shoulders and making those work for us to keep us all safe. Just trying to scan for anything else in the notes. I think that kind of well summarizes it. I don't know from and this neighborhood, I have to say, I really applaud them for their consistency in showing up. They've shown up here, they show up at the infrastructure committee meeting, at our public health and safety committee meeting more than once, and that's been to their credit, in getting this far with the measures that they've asked. And thank you for your consistency.
Yes. Please come forward and.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
There's another microphone on the other table there.
Hi. I'm Megan James. I live on Rogers Road, and I'm so grateful for the speed bumps. They're awesome. I watch them from my window, and I get a thrill of delight every time somebody goes over them extremely slowly. So thank you for that. I did want to just clarify, or I wanted to add to what Laura said about the striping on the road and why I think that is a really important thing to do on Rogers Road in addition to the speed bumps. The speed bumps are great. They're slowing people down. But one of the sort of weird structural problems with the Rogers Road, sorry, I'm out of breath. I always get nervous when I talk in front of people. So I just give me a moment to breathe. Okay. Okay. So we've got like Monroe Street, right? That comes up, and then you take a right onto Rogers Road, and there's a tiny little bit of Monroe Street that continues on that has like 3 houses on it. So almost everybody who comes up Monroe Street takes a right on Rogers Road, and there's no stop sign there. There's no anything there. We recently got a watch for pedestrians sign, which is cool, but it took me like 2 weeks to even notice it was there because I never see it, because most people are just like around the corner. I have nearly mowed down pedestrians as I come around that corner because people walk on the left side of the street, which is the inside of that corner. So if you're coming even slowly around that corner, like you often end up with people right in front of you, and it's scary. So I think the line striping with a pedestrian bike chunk designated on the other side of the road would be really useful in just delineating that this is where you should walk and bike and not on this side of the road. When my kids are here and when we walk and bike to school, we do the thing they're supposed to do on our bikes, which is we ride with traffic. But then when we're walking, we walk on the left side, but then when we get like partway down the road to the scary part, we cross over to the right side, because if you're on the left side, you will get like mowed down. So anyway, I just think the striping is something that could really help with that specific problem. Short of having a stop sign right there, it could help to just move people over to the other side.
Thank you for pointing that out and explaining why that stripe is part of the resolution. Okay. Do you have any questions about the resolution?
This is being done, right? We don't have to approve this, right? Because they've already got the speed bumps out.
Well, they put the speed bumps out. We talked about that previously. I do think this may be an opportunity to talk about a little bit of a learning point, because we never delegated the authority to dictate projects to the Public Health and Safety Committee. So you've kind of stepped on another committee. This would be like if you were over in Montpelier and you have something that you think is probably a smart thing, but you don't have a budget to do that, and you don't have the staff to do that. That's not your bailiwick. So that should come over to the Infrastructure Committee then, who looks at that recommendation and says, yeah, because inevitably it sets a precedent, and it's the way we should be looking at it from both sides. I got you. So I'm not opposed to it, but I think it needs to go, this motion ought to go over to our Public Works guys to say, is this supportable? When can we do it? I don't think we necessarily have to if they're in agreement, but I think it's our opportunity. It's come to us here from a committee, and I'm a little concerned that a committee is dictating activities that is the purview of another committee. So.
Well, it's the language.
Second, please.
Okay.
Because what you're saying, I have information about that.
What? The thing is, okay, I know you've talked to Bill. That doesn't keep it from coming through the committee. Talking to Bill is different than this committee sending a recommendation over to another committee saying, we really think you ought to look at this.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time this has happened to me where the committee brought something forward that really wasn't their purview, from my viewpoint. And so I was fully supportive of the speed bumps, but now we're talking about additional speed bumps and, ride share or
The lane, right?
yeah, which may be good. I think we gotta follow the right process.
Right. So the language is to make a recommendation to you to do this very thing. So you can always say, okay, now this needs to go back to infrastructure because they've been back and forth, and that I think that's what she was going to say. And infrastructure said, we'll take it to public health. Here it's back in public. Now it goes back to infrastructure. So it's been
by the showing, it's like everybody whipped up a frenzy to come here and force the select board. And I'm saying,
oh no,
I don't want to feel pressured tonight because it's not our purview to take something from your committee and dictate it to another committee. I just want to follow the process. And if everybody's okay with that, we should be able to get that. I don't know when the next infrastructure committee.
The next infrastructure committee is next Thursday, right? But we are busy with water and wastewater budgets for that meeting for sure, and possibly the next meeting. So,
and if Bill's supportive of painting the line, he can do that without having to bring it to us. But that's something the town administratively can handle. But if we're going to start dictating some policies type stuff, that I've got at least 4 other roads that have had issues of speeding in the past. And if we start creating, this is how we're going to deal with speeding, which is kind of, it becomes a policy type of thing. And if we get involved as a board and say, this is what we want to do, then I got Weybridge Street and I got
right.
South
It's a proposal.
Yeah, Washington Street Extension.
To make
Washington Street Extension.
It's a proposal. It's a recommendation.
High Street. I could name a bunch of streets.
It's not a dictation.
So I have to be very careful about that. And I think I just would warn the board that, I do believe with the amount of pedestrian traffic that's there heading to the school, that if that's slowing them and that works, I don't know how many you get walking in the winter, but those are temporary that we have there because they'll have to be pulled up for snow plowing. And I don't know if they noticed if there was a noticeable difference during the winter months with fewer people walking or snowbanks. You didn't have snowbanks this winter. And this is, I think, the part that we can get some feedback from the infrastructure committee as to.
Yep. We know that the infrastructure committee has a lot on its plate.
Yeah.
And we know that Bill has been aware of this pilot, and is interested in the experiment too, so.
We all are.
So it's just a way of consolidating, what the measures are. So you, as a select board, are informed of the menu of options that they're looking at piloting in this neighborhood. And it doesn't mean that it's guaranteed for other neighborhoods, but it could be something that could be applied.
Fred's had his hand up for about ever.
Can I, go ahead. If Fred was been
Yeah.
waiting, go for it. I can wait.
Fred,
Hi, can you hear me?
we
Yeah.
can.
I see agenda notes about how there's going to be further study of this and whether the speed bumps work and road usage as a result of it. I have to say, there's been ample traffic engineering studies over decades of the effectiveness of traffic calming. And I don't think we need to restudy whether people slow down because of a speed bump. I know it's there. I'm pretty sure they'll slow down or they avoid it. I don't think we need to restudy that very much. I would say that in talking with Bill Kernan today, thank Kathleen for connecting me with him. In the long term, safe places for pedestrians require sidewalks. But we're talking more money for a whole new sidewalk construction than we have in our capital budget. So the question is, what can we do in a relatively short period that would be okay and doesn't violate the standards? The concern that Bill had about the painting line that, and I was hoping that he could join the meeting to say this himself, is twofold. One is that if you direct people to walk in one side of a road both ways, it kind of works contrary to what we do tell pedestrians to do, which is walk opposing traffic. And having special markings and so forth, I realize that there's some leeriness to that that Bill told me about. The other thing I would just say from my perspective is trying to get school children to walk on the east side of the road and the shortest distance around that corner is on the west side. You're going to have a hard time containing teenagers with a white line. They're going to walk the shortest distance. I wish it were simpler than that, but I do want the board to be able to say that they're supporting traffic calming. I don't want to give the impression to the people out there, especially the people who have worked hard on this in neighborhoods, that the town is averse to this. There might be other neighborhoods that are envious. If you're getting speed bumps, the town has to think about, okay, where are they really appropriate? To that end, the town really needs a bona fide, town-wide traffic calming plan. We've talked about this for a long time. We've talked about all sorts of elements of it. Whether there should be stop signs at some of the streets. Finally, after years of urging, we caved on that. The people who, in the administration who have opposed that, our police chiefs, no disrespect to Chief Hanley, but we finally put in a mid-block, stop sign on Butt-Off Drive at Meadow Way, and there's one on High Street. So these have been effective. I dare you to propose taking them out because they would have the effect of continuous traffic picking up speed and going through. The reason that Butt-Off and Rogers are bypasses is because of the traffic from Charlton Monroe. And that's also very costly for the town to take on. It will be decades more waiting for V-Trans to get to it, we all know. So we have to come up with some solutions that can be workable.
Hey, Fred,
And
can I cut you off, Fred?
that feels okay.
I think we've got the point. We supported traffic calming. That's why those bumps are there. That was from the select board. And it is we're seeing that it's working. It's the request for the line striping and 2 additional bumps that's the issue. And as you have just said, there is a concern from Bill, which is why it needs to go to them before we say that it ought to be done. Just to be discussed and studied. Yes, sir.
I just want to try to add that. Thank you. My name is Daniel Houghton. I live on Rogers Road.
Do we indicate some measure of support?
We already, please. Let's get all the comments first.
I think one of the challenges at play that might be stirring some feelings is the difficulty of trying to engage some of the processes in their appropriate manner. And so what I'd like to add to the conversation is that in 2021, I came before the select board and proposed this exact problem, carrying with me the signatures of all the residents of Rogers Road and the stories of how 30 years of trying had all failed to achieve any change whatsoever since Rogers Road went from a cul-de-sac to a cut-through. At that moment, I was advised to speak with the Public Health and Safety Committee, and from there was advised to speak to the Infrastructure Committee, and then was ignored. And the second time around, 3 years later, to be advised again to follow the proper procedure starts to make it feel very difficult to engage a procedure that's opaque and difficult to follow, because there don't seem to be the resources to even respond with follow-ups to those requests. And so I'd just like to add to the scenario that I think some of what's at play is what has obviously been an issue for many decades, and the either inability because of lack of resources or disinterest is one of the variables on the table that the residents are struggling to patiently pursue, but finding what can feel a little bit like a runaround if we're being advised to go through the committee process again when it didn't result in meaningful responses the first time.
Yeah, understand. And I'm not saying that that you have to go to the infrastructure committee. We have a recommendation that ought to go to the infrastructure committee and Bill to say, does that line striping that you were proposing, does that make sense? And does it fulfill logic? There was a request for 2 permanent humps is the way I read it, which is different than what we've already supported. And so those are different requests. We've already supported the temporary. I have people saying it's working and it's slowing the traffic there. And really now it's the pedestrian side and guiding the pedestrians. So that's the kind of the next step. And I'm just believing that our public works guys should take a look at that striping. There was discussion about having it be walking and biking. I think there was some bike share or something. Wasn't that in what I read?
Yes.
And you're talking about a 3-foot wide stripe. That's where, on Exchange Street, they had to be 6 feet, 8 feet wide to have a bike. And so can you even put the bikes in a 3-foot with pedestrians, and is that safe? I mean, you need 3 feet wide to have a bike. So it doesn't make sense to me. So that's why I want somebody else to look at it from the traffic side. Not, we want safe roads. We want everything you guys want. We need somebody who does that for a living to look at it. For just a layman, doesn't make sense to me to put bikes and people going both ways on a 3-foot wide path. That seems like you're asking too much. Not you, but I mean, to ask all of those people to crowd into a 3-foot wide stripe.
I mean, ideally, this neighborhood would love a sidewalk.
I get it, but we wouldn't have a sidewalk that was only 3 feet wide. So this is why I think now it needs to go over to the professionals to look at and say, okay, well, maybe we can do a striped path, but it's for walking only. Bikes got to run with the traffic like they do every other place, because they need to look at the turns and
Yep.
Well, they did paint a wider path on Monroe. I don't know why, but people do walk in that wider path just because it's wider instead of 2 little narrow ones we have on Rogers. So that's why we're asking for that.
And I don't have time for everybody tonight, but I'll allow another person to speak, and then Heather would like to.
I could keep it under 2 minutes.
That'd be great.
I just want to put a human aspect in this. I do appreciate the issue of flow of information and decisions, and that's your business to figure out. This is the first time I've heard of this calming as an experiment. And I kind of like that issue because this is a place to do a really good place of all the places in Middlebury that need help for this experiment. We have children walking to 3 schools. I moved into this neighborhood when my son was 6. He walked to Mary Hogan, he walked to the middle school, he walked to the high school. And every one of those walks was terrifying for a parent. That's what we have every single day. And I'm retired now, so I watch them go by my window. We have fast traffic and a lot of walkers, and many, many of them are children. And what's good about Butt Off Acres is once you get to Harrow Drive, walking from our neighborhood, it's like ollie ollie out and free because you finally hit a sidewalk where your child might be safe. That's what all of the parents who are whose children are walking through these neighborhoods have to face. My son is 17, and another year he's ollie ollie out and free because he'll have graduated. But that's how long we've been struggling with this issue and the absolute lack of safety. We have a lot of walkers. I'm not saying just children, but we serve 3 of the schools within Middlebury that come through this neighborhood with very fast traffic, way too much traffic. You saw the traffic studies of how many people use that road as a bypass. It's children, it's other people. I just want to humanize the discussion. And if there's going to be an experiment, this is a really good neighborhood to do it because we've got all the dangers and we can see if it makes people safer.
Well, that's why we chose that road. So
Right.
we get it. I mean, Chief's here. I appreciate everybody. I just think we need to figure out what's the striping that works.
Right. And I want to remind the select board that local motion gave us the pop-up trailer a few years ago to do temporary measures to try them out, so you can do like a pilot and see if people are using that or not, or if, like Fred has said, they're going to not use it and they're going to go to the
Do we still have
point
that?
of least resistance. We could do it ourselves because it's just chalking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a long way to chalk.
It can be done, or there are other.
You might as well paint it. So, okay.
Just
You had-
really, really quickly, the one thing that I haven't seen that I'm interested in that doesn't have to be tonight, but if it comes back to the select board or comes back to infrastructure, whatever, is what the costs are associated with these things. Just what are we talking about cost wise? I'm just from a budget perspective and all that. I'm just interested in cost. And then I would just make a quick comment. I was surprised. So I travel that way, not as a cut through, but to get to my place of work and to also to Shaw's. And I always drive slow through there because there are people and kids on the road. I was surprised to see those speed bumps there. They are really rugged. They have essentially stopped traffic through there. And as I have talked to Bill a couple of times, I think part of the issue with that location is the challenging signaling situation we have at Monroe Street. True. And I think one place that I would like to see us move forward quicker is dealing with that intersection and then the signaling. I think what happens, that's a very challenging signaling place, and the way it has to work right now, there is a lot of backup, as I'm sure everybody knows. And unfortunately, it is the best that it can be for the situation right now. So I personally would like us to see us move that Monroe Street project forward and hopefully address some of the Court Street Monroe intersection to deal with some of the traffic issues, and maybe that would prevent people from trying to cut through. So I also think about all the other neighborhoods that have come before us requesting sidewalks, requesting traffic calming, High Street, Washington Street. Weybridge Street actually had a child hit, as many of you know, and we have done nothing. And I struggle when we do something in one area and we don't everywhere else. So.
Thank you, Heather. And thank you, Select Board, for,
I got a quick comment on, I was approached by two of the residents on Brookside Drive, Alice George and somebody else. They raised some concerns about people speeding on their road, and they were wondering if they can put a stop sign on the other side, or when they saw the speed bumps, they think they want something also on that side.
which road?
Brookside.
Brookside?
Alice George, Dean George's wife.
Brookside, the road that connects
Oh, right, yeah, I
from
know,
Butt-off
right.
to
Right.
the other way to cut through.
Just similar.
So the humps, we need some costs.
I wonder what a hump costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like I
I
don't
think
bring
he-
it to the infrastructure unless we can talk about.
I think Bill has collected that because he.
Yeah, we just bought two.
And,
so.
and I think he has,
No, the raised
The
crosswalks, I
humps
think.
the humps are permanent.
there are humps and bumps.
Humps and bumps, yeah.
I'm happy things are improving a little bit, but.
Yeah. I think Bill has a sense of the cost of the striping too, Heather. So
mean,
I guess
he
we
does
can,
that. I'm not so concerned about that because we have the equipment for that. He's
it's
doing
whether that would
anyway.
work.
It's
Yeah.
more about the other stuff that I'm just,
Yeah.
when you come, so infrastructure is about like managing a budget, a capital budget, about costs. It's like we have a very limited amount of resources. Where do we put those resources into what? And so for me personally, it just helps to have an idea of what we're talking about cost wise.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And that was not the only thing we talked about at the Public Health and Safety Committee. So just switching.
This is the end
channel.
of it, though.
Yeah,
I'll give
this-
you 2 minutes.
Yep. So we also talked about parking downtown and that we have, we're hoping to hire a parking attendant, and I'll let the chief speak to the status of that, but that hopefully will help again with navigating what we know continues to be a challenge for people, which is finding a parking spot. So we want to do some enforcement. And we also want to make the process better for appealing tickets. So we address that, and you've heard about that already. So I won't spend time talking about that.
To be brief, we had a hiccup in our hiring. We're adjusting from that, hoping to hire again soon for our parking enforcement.
Accepted and didn't show?
Accepted and then withdrew.
Yeah.
But we have a plan B in
Yeah.
motion right now.
So stay posted on that. The other thing I mentioned regarding downtown is that it might be helpful to add another trash can back here at the corner, because that seems to be a very heavily used spot, and there's space for it. So that might help alleviate some of the overflow that we see in this corner over here between the library and the town office. So we were going to look into that. And otherwise, downtown looks beautiful and seems to be working. And is there anything else that the select board would like to bring to us? Our next meeting will be in July.
Is your meeting quarterly?
Mm-hmm.
Before then, we'll report back to you, Wendy, and so you can share with everybody what comes out of the discussion with Bill and the infrastructure committee. As far as specifically, I would say next on the agenda is line striping. And at least for a walking path.
I just asked a question. So Heather said that they are busy their next 2 meetings. Does that mean that summer would be gone before we?
Well, it might be handled by staff as far as Bill and Kathleen working through that, because we're talking about, it's not a huge budget thing for the line striping. It's just, does it fit standards, and is it something we can sustain, those types of things. I think the hump issue is a different, that's more of the budget and what's it have for long-term, because that's permanent, right? That's a big change versus the temporary You know, what we've put in there so far is slowing everybody. I guess I would want to understand why you need humps if you got the bumps, and so.
It's on butt off, not
Right.
on Rogers.
That's on the actual crosswalks.
Two crosswalks that don't have stop signs,
Oh,
and the bumps are only 6 months of the year.
yeah,
Where
Right.
the humps at those crosswalks would provide safety. Bill said he was looking into making them a different color even. And I haven't talked to him since
And-
then.
and while they're a different color, it's like our crosswalks downtown. They were a different color, and then we had a year like last year where we couldn't maintain them, and they were, you know, they all have maintenance standards. They look great that first year.
Yeah.
So
But
that's why we just need to talk about that.
Yeah, I think you're
So
really right.
I read the packet this week, and I've been out straight, and I haven't had time to talk with Bill. And so I think asking for us to make some big grand decision tonight, I think you've got the support from the board. We would love to. We've tried. We've spent money on those darn flashing signs, and they seem to control traffic for a little bit. Now there's so many of them around the state. Everybody's used to them, and because you can't ticket off from those or anything, it seems like people don't even mind them anymore. So we supported you a few months ago with this idea of the bumps, and Bill's put those out, and it's great to hear that they're working. I do know that I heard from somebody who didn't know they were going to be there and jarred their teeth the first time. And what'd you guys do? Oh, we're trying to calm the traffic. So we are working at it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We did.
They make a big difference.
So, okay. Well, thanks. We do have to move on, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
So Chief, you're up next.
So just, so you know, if you're gonna invest money from the house, I
Yeah.
wonder if it should be invested somewhere else and not in the same, so that we are.
No, I get it.
We're spreading some of this traffic control money and effort in other places.
Yep.
Because Butt Off Drive already has the 2 stops on it.
Yep.
Anyway.
These are the things that Bill and you guys would know. Okay. Police staffing discussion.
So I met with the personnel committee yesterday. We have a desire to change our rank structure in the police department. Right now, we have 3 ranks: patrol officer, sergeant, chief. We want to redesignate one of those sergeant positions as a lieutenant. You had in your packet, I believe, a copy of a memo I submitted, which explains the rationale behind it. This is long overdue for an agency our size with our capabilities. We have a missing link in our chain of command that would be well served by a mid-level management position. And again, the rationale is explained in that memo. I won't bore you with the long explanation of it unless you have questions. But this would better serve the agency, better serve the town to have that additional link in our chain of command. Right now, there's a bit of a disconnect in the way we do things. We get along okay, but it needs an intermediary step in the ladder. And I think we would be much better served, more efficient, more accountability this way for me to supervise operational level issues. That's not really my job. I think I say in the memo, chief of police is a strategic position. The lieutenant would be a tactical leader on the ground. It just makes sense to get things done more efficiently.
Any questions of Chief?
If you say it makes sense, it makes sense.
I appreciate that.
So
Yeah.
with
I like
I'll
that.
move to approve the proposed creation of the rank of lieutenant within the Middlebury Police Department, reallocating an existing sergeant position into this new rank.
Second.
Oh, you can have it.
No, you can have it.
Okay, I'll take it.
Dan, did you want to say anything about the personnel committee's
Excuse me.
endorsement of this?
No, we had a pretty lengthy and thorough discussion, more so than just saying, if you want it, you got it. And it made all the sense in the world to us. It made all the sense in the world to us, and we approved it. So,
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Fred's got his finger up. Anybody opposed? Okay, thanks, chief.
Thank you.
You work with
No.
Kathleen on her process of implement.
These points on your computer.
Okay,
Dana.
Dana's online, is she?
Yeah. Looks like it.
Oh, Ilsley Library.
Yeah.
Joe, you want to come up to the?
Unofficial, I'm here as a citizen, not as in any official capacity, so I'll let you guys talk.
Oh, really?
When I get a chance.
Okay. Good evening, Dana.
Hi, Dana.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Dana.
First of all, thank you to the select board for supporting the library. We're so excited about the positive bond vote, and thank you to the LC 100 team and Joe for all their hard work over the past few years. We're over the moon. As I think you all know, we are still looking for a temporary storage space for the bulk of the library collection. And we kind of put a call out to potential community partners, and a few have come forward. One, which seemed pretty promising, was Satori out on Route 7 South. They have really generously offered to provide us free storage space for the duration of the construction period. It's a fantastic, climate-controlled, beautiful space. It would work well in a lot of ways. There is a significant drawback, which is since they're in the business of growing cannabis, there's an odor that permeates the facility, and so that's something to consider when storing books, which are made out of paper, organic material. So we did leave a few books in the facility for a few weeks to see how much of a smell they picked up. And very unscientifically, some people noticed it, some people didn't, but if anyone's noticing it, that's enough to be cause for concern. I don't know if we would end up going forward with Satori, although we are extremely grateful for their generous offer. But as that is the most promising option we have right now. We did draft up a letter of intent for the select board to consider, and it includes a clause that says if the town secures suitable alternative arrangement for temporary location, the library will go with that. And I've been very upfront with Satori about this potential concern, and they're aware that if another option comes along that doesn't have that caveat, that. So I guess this is just really an update for you to know that community partners are stepping forward to gratefully acknowledge Satori's offer, and to know that we have this. Should we? And I do have two other potential leads that we will be exploring.
And the letter with the National Bank is signed now, Dana.
I got a copy. Thank you, Brian. I was over there today and talking about next steps and thinking about the space, and so that's really exciting.
Yeah.
So Dana, would you like the board to consider this letter of intent now, or are you doing more explorations first?
I think we can do more explorations and just know that we have this and it's ready to go. I guess if the board has concerns about anything in the letter, it'd be good to know so that we can address it. But I don't think the board needs to take action on it tonight because I am still hopeful that we'll find another space.
If you don't find another space, Dana, is there a way to modify this space to reduce the odor, or not without a lot of?
That's a good question. I think we would have to look into that. a couple board members have raised ideas about how the odor might be mitigated. Barbara Doyle Welch has some experience with this from moving past, not with cannabis, but with
Barbara.
Well, maybe.
elections in the past. So I think that there's just so many unknowns still that it's hard to say whether it would work out or not.
Okay.
This could increase the circulation. Some people would check the books out to read, and some people would check them out to lick. To smell. So it could be a good thing for the library. Sorry, Dana.
Okay, on to the next.
They were all smiling over there. They were
Chris.
waiting for something.
Could I comment as a citizen here? I'm not speaking on behalf of the trustees or the ILSI 100 project team. I love working with Dana. We see eye to eye on almost everything. And I'm really appreciative of the Satori folks for coming forth with this very generous offer. In many ways, it's a perfect space for us. It's dry, it's well lit, it's climate controlled, it's nearby, it's free, it's all great. To me, the potential odor on the books is an absolute deal killer. I wouldn't go there as a last resort. I mean, I would say there's got to be something else. I don't think we should spend $17 million on a brand spanking new library and then bring into it a collection of books which smell like weed. Okay. And as Dan points out, there might be a few adult readers who would enjoy the hit, so on. But we're talking about kids' books as well. And I understand there's some unknown possibilities here. Maybe there's a way of mitigating the odor. Maybe I have a sensitive nose. I smelled one of those books that had been in there for 3 weeks, and I thought that the odor was quite strong. And maybe it's my imagination, but I sometimes think when I'm driving north on Route 7 past that building, I can smell pot coming out of it.
Yeah.
And I simply can't imagine that a book, and anybody who's ever had to go down in a basement and bring up a box of books in a slightly damp basement that have been there for a period of time knows how much they take in the odor. But I mean, leaving books in that building for 14 months, I think it would be catastrophic to the collection. I'm speaking as an individual. The ILSI 100, the trustees have not taken a position on that. Dana is the expert, but I just wanted to say, I think it's a bad idea. I appreciate their generous offer. I don't think we should go there.
My concern is the long-term exposure and how long those books will retain that smell.
Sure.
Will be my concern. We don't know how, maybe it will go away, but I don't know.
Sounds like Dana's working to find other options.
We really appreciate all of Dana's work. Dana has been to lumberyards. Dana has been to the morgue at the cemetery in Cornwall, which was generously offered as another place. She's really, turning over the stones.
How many square feet do you think you need, Dana?
I got the MOU in front of us. I think it was 3,000 square feet.
Linear.
That's what we think.
Right.
And we can supply our own shelving.
We talked to Carrera's. Carrera owns lots of
And I'll
things.
talk to Carrera.
They own a lot of buildings.
Yeah.
So does Champlain Valley Equipment own a lot of buildings.
I'll send you Bill's contact information.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, part of this is just continuing to keep the issue out there in front of the community. If anyone has space or can think of anyone that might have space, we are in the market and yeah.
And the warehouse behind Pete's Tires, Rouse built that big warehouse out there. I think it's empty now. I think
sale,
Arcane
though.
Miles moved out of it, and I think they just sold it.
Did they sell it?
I saw the sign is gone now.
Okay, so we'll have to see.
So that might be another option.
All right, we're not going to solve it tonight. We're on to with Chris.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dana.
Dana.
Congratulations.
Did Dana go?
Okay. You're on your own, buddy.
Wow, they hang you.
Just going to repeat.
I'm still
Oh,
here.
okay.
You don't need to be looking at me
Oh,
on the
okay.
screen,
Gotcha.
so I'll be here.
So just to echo Dana's appreciation and thank you, we thought we'd pull together this very brief summary letter that we issued to the select board, which effectively outlines the steps moving from the positive bond vote, and of course there's the appeal period, which we're in right now, leading up to a contract amendment. So the way that the contract was originally structured was to anticipate a hopeful positive bond vote, which means that town council has already done the majority of the legwork to get the structure of the agreement in place, so that at this point, it's a fairly simple process of amending the contract with the bond amount at this time. So what that would do is, if the select board authorizes Kathleen to engage in negotiations and have town council review our amendment to then present it back to you for approval, it effectively is a fairly simple process to allow us and the architecture and engineering team to move forward. And that moving forward part is really leading us from where we are today, schematic design, through the next phases. So next phase after that is design development, and then construction documents. Then we go out to bid to local and regional subcontractors to secure their interest and secure their bids for the ultimate build, which would be early next year. March or April is what we're targeting. At that time, we'd issue a second amendment to the contract, not the Constitution, and that would reflect the actual bid results and the final scope and the schedule. So it's the complete package that's rolled into this AIA A141 owner design builder contract. So that's kind of the snapshot of the steps moving forward. That's really the intent of me being here tonight. We're so excited that we've already had a kickoff meeting with our design team and just getting folks energized for the steps, the immediate next steps, things we're looking at.
Kathleen, do you need anything from us this evening?
With the consensus of the board, I'll go forward with having the town attorney review this. In this case, it's Bob Fletcher from Sister Page and Fletcher, who reviewed the first contract, as Chris noted.
Okay.
Fred's
got his hand up. Fred?
Hi, Chris. I had a conversation with Chris before the bond vote, and he reminded me, I'd forgotten, that the fire department, when they did their building addition project a few years ago, planned for the long term. And they like we're not the last generation, that someday the town might have an expanded fire department, residential component to it, and there could be a third floor added. So let's say, for those of us who've lived through 2 library additions, and as big as this project is, we say, well, we're not the last generation. Let's say someday, there's a decision made to expand once again. And I know the library is not designed for this. Chris explained that as a fundamental change. But if someone came forward and said, you know, I want to make a giant gift, and I'd like you to have the frame be able to support something for the long term. What is that change even remotely possible? And I'm assuming there'll be another amendment to the contract for that. But what degree of change and what point in the contracting does that become impossible?
Brian, would you like me to? Sure, Fred. Based on our conversation, I did mention that that the fire station, unbeknownst to many, it is structured as a concrete slab above the apparatus bay, should the town wish to go vertical in the future. On this project, given the design, the conversation I had with Fred was that it would be, in my opinion, very difficult to fundamentally change the design to allow for vertical expansion So where would that happen? How would that happen? Would be technically, I think, very challenging. Meaning, would you go and build a third floor on top of the current 2 floors, or would you fill in the outdoor terrace? Both of those, I think, would present some significant challenges from egress, from, an overall, it's a very, very large design change to how the building is currently conceived. So I don't want to say nothing's possible, but this would be a very significant change to the project.
So something like this would add time, years, lots of dollars, and we've been working on this project for 3 years and have got a pretty sound idea of what we want to do. This is way late in the game when we've got $17 million committed to this project, and we're going to struggle to keep within that 17 million. I don't want anything. I personally don't want anything to come in to make us take a right-hand turn.
I second that. Sentiments, yeah.
I was just wondering, how much of a change could happen? Let's say, the notion that someday it has to all be torn down and reviewed anymore is a little disconcerting, but it's a huge accomplishment to get what has been won with the bond vote. I don't want to take anything away from that. I just wanted to have this conversation a little bit out loud, not just between Chris and me, about the permanence that we will have to live with this.
Is it any different really than the permanence of the town offices and many of our other buildings? I think we tried to project a building that's part of why it's $17 million. We're looking to future needs.
That's true.
And modifiable space, which wasn't the way it was designed previously.
We were aiming for a more flexible space because we don't know what libraries are going to be like 50 years down the road. But to Fred's point, I would note that those of us who are working on this project are viewing somewhat faultily the previous decisions that were made to expand on the 77 edition and the 88 edition. We're looking back at what they did, which no doubt they thought was forward-looking at the time, and saying, well, you should have thought a little bit further forward. So it might be worth considering how would we expand, if it were necessary at some point in the future.
Which, Joe, I'll say that we did look at that together with, with Dana, with you, with the rest of the team. And the fact is that this site, as is Brian points out, the town office site, is exceptionally confined in footprint to the point that, we're expanding easterly. So I think the committee has done a great job of sort of looking at a variety of options.
Okay, so Kathleen has what you need from us. Okay, well, hey, I'm excited to see it keep moving forward. It was really, you can take back to your team, Dana and Joe, that you guys have really, you're bringing something home that I think people thought a number of years ago would never happen.
Well, we appreciate the support of the select board and Kathleen and the town administration, but the margin of the vote was very positively affirming.
Yeah.
In an era when school budgets all around us are falling, to have basically a 5-1 margin was very, felt good.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chris.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night, Dana. Kathleen, the school resource officer, did they change? Why'd the budget go down on that?
Yeah.
So historically, we've had a contract with the school district based on the COPS grant that we initially got from the federal government, which was an 80-20 split.
Yeah.
fast forward to current day where we've had lots of turnover in our bookkeeping department, lots of turnover at the school district. And now there's a suggestion that we should have it at 25 for the town percent and 75% for the school district based on the school year. So this is what I have before you tonight. To note that this is for the current fiscal year. And I think that is what it is. But going forward, we should enter into some type of negotiation about what the contract is going to be going forward. I think part of the rub came in about a difference in the amount. The school district didn't budget the full 93.4.
So you can make this work. You're okay with it? Any questions of Kathleen? Okay, need a motion?
I'll move to approve the proposed revised service agreement between the town of Middlebury and the ACSD.
Can I request a friendly amendment to that motion that we signify the fiscal year, please? Would that be okay?
Yes.
For the current fiscal year.
Yes, so that's
fiscal year 24.
Fiscal year 24.
Fiscal year 24.
Thank you, if you would.
Yep.
You want a second?
I'll second, if that is acceptable for everyone.
Yeah, that's because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted it to be clear that the revised agreement is for the current fiscal year only at this point.
Yeah. Okay, any questions then? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Fred mouthed aye, let it be known. So discussion of the select board retreat. If you all could look at your calendars.
I can tell you, I'm sorry that I am not available either of the days in the schedule.
You're not.
Were we supposed to hold those days? The 4th is my daughter's birthday, and the 6th is a company Lake Monsters event. The company is purchasing tickets for everyone to go to the Lake Monsters game on the 6th.
No, this was our initial discussion of it. We're just
Okay.
putting those dates out there.
So I can't do those 2 dates. Just, if the rest of you can, then
I would zoom in on those dates. So I'll be babysitting.
What about the 18th?
I don't know.
On
June is crazy.
18th.
The 4th and 6th, I can zoom in. I can't do anything on the week of the 18th.
I won't be back until I'm gone I'm leaving out of here the afternoon of the 7th, and I won't be back until the 20th. So I'm gonna miss, one select board meeting? You got it covered?
I think I can manage. Oh, I don't need it from you.
The heckler.
Do you want to try for the last week in May when there's not there is a select board meeting, sorry.
Yes.
28th?
28th is a select board meeting.
Oh, okay.
What's your appetite to do 2 nights in a row? 29th?
Yeah, I can do it.
It's fine with me.
29th?
Yeah.
Kathleen? Heather?
I can do 29th.
I'll be coming from an event at Bar Hill. It'll be perfect.
29th.
I can't.
Fred?
I can't commit to the 29th. But
Is there a possibility, Dan?
there's a possibility. We're
Are you on the
kind of
road?
laying out a funeral for that day. So,
Okay.
but I don't know.
What about June 13th?
It just, I said no to that.
Yeah, Brian's gone.
I'm going.
How about, is that,
When do you get back to town, Fred?
Depends on whether we get fair wind. I'm gonna do my best to be there, if it was in June. I'm just gonna do my best to be there. I'll Zoom if I can.
Okay.
the 30th? I'm supposed to
I
be at
mean, there's trivia, but okay.
Dang it. I'm supposed to be at a reunion, but I'll go a day late. See that?
I know, that's
St. Lawrence reunion.
it's a lot. I see what you're doing.
That's just the type of guy I am. I'm a giver here, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about either of those days. Pick one of those days. I'm not sure. You know.
Well, if you're
I
not
probably-
sure,
I
then
probably-
we'll go to 29th.
Yeah.
Let's do 29.
Yeah, I probably have a higher problem. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just I'm
We'll pencil in the 29th.
okay.
So
Pen.
even
Pen.
if it's 29th or 30th, they'll be zooming in.
I would,
No, if I don't know. I should be here and I should be okay unless certain events take place in the next week.
Wait,
I don't know how to plan for crap like
you
this.
can't.
Okay.
That's right. 7 p.m.
I just know when.
Do we go earlier and
6, we usually
do
do.
dinner?
We usually do dinner on the retreat nights.
We can do 5 to something.
We could start it as early as 5:30, but it's up to you guys whether you want to start that early.
Earlier is better.
Earlier is better. How about you, Heather?
5:30? Check.
excuse me, what day?
We're looking at the 28th,
28?
9th.
29th.
Sorry, 29th. Yeah, so it's the day after the select board meeting.
And are we saying we're doing food at 5:30, start at 6, or are we starting at 5:30?
We are eating food. at
Well,
8.
food at 5:30. Yeah, come at 5:30.
Yeah, I'll have food here by 5:15. And then we can just.
And start at 5:30?
Yeah.
Okay, that works.
Okay, now topic.
It's the 29th you're talking about.
Yes,
Right.
Yes,
Which one?
29.
of May.
29. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, topics. Here's some ideas. that We could talk some more about the library projects and flush out, parking during the construction and design, and funding for reconstruction of the parking lot, which is
Parking is a good discussion, I think, in general,
to
as
accommodate
we,
more cars.
yeah, as we look at enforcement.
So, and then the Bakery Lane project rolls into that. So that's all part of that. That can be all tied into kind of the discussion library project.
To do that Bakery Lane project at the same time. Boy.
Why this is number one on our discussion. Just kind of forecast.
I did not think about that when we were talking about that project.
I think that we ought to have a discussion about the Addison Independent and what's it mean for our community. I've had a discussion with Angelo about what's happening with newspapers, print press throughout the nation, and it's Vermont has been slow on it. We saw it with the Burlington Free Press years ago, but
Right.
They're starting to feel it. So I don't know if anybody has any other particular issues. We do have the parking on South Ridge Drive.
And I spoke to Bill Kernan about that today. he was going to reach out to the homeowners and the school to talk about several suggestions. So I think he has that in hand. Right after the select board meeting, Jason Covey, police chief, appointed Bill Austin to take a look at and inventory what was going on down there. So we have that information to inform steps going forward.
I can tell you I was there last night when there was a baseball, softball, and 2 lacrosse games going on all at the same time. And there was nowhere to park. And there
Sure.
were cars everywhere. So, I mean, the 4 teams playing all out of, other school parents coming in, so. I understand the concern from the residents.
Yep.
Anybody have any other items?
Yeah, I would just say, money. The talk of how could we advance the Charles Monroe intersection? How can we take on some additional sidewalk construction? How are we gonna keep up with the paving, that was shown on Emily's maps? All those red, roads that are in rough shape. I think, having committed as much as we have to the library, as great as that is, finding the funds to keep up with those things, for a new public works facility, to me is a real big issue. And longer range capital improvement planning and funding, to me, seems to be the big thing.
Yeah, that's the 800-pound gorilla.
I think it was a little more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's, if anybody has anything else they would like to, if anybody else has something that they would like to consider, send an email to myself and Kathleen. I think those 4 topics are more than enough to fill a retreat.
Sure.
Those are pretty heavy topics. I do think there are several other topics. We may need a second retreat this year. We've had years where we had
Sure.
for a couple, and so, but rather than try to get it all into one, I think we're better off doing a thorough job, and while we're still fresh, maybe being able to walk away feeling like we had a good discussion. So, okay, Kathleen's gonna bring us up to date on the New England Hydropower Company.
So I sent you out the previous motion to dismiss that the town submitted in the hydropower application on the opposite side of the falls, as kind of some background material of things that we should be looking for in filing a motion to intervene with FERC for the current hydropower company proposal. So briefly, as included in your packet, several things that we could have concern about are historic preservation, including the impact on the historic waterworks, one at the former David Page Cotton Mill, and the second just to the south of the David Page Cotton Mill site behind 44 Main Street. Aesthetic, aquatic resources, and riparian habitat for fish and wildlife. The possible decline in water quality, loss of recreational opportunities, and any particular new concerns the board may have identified. What I would propose to do is take this and any other input the board has and give it to David Mears, our attorney for this, and have him prepare a motion to intervene on our behalf. He says it's a 1 or 2 page document, but we should include the general areas of concern in that.
Yeah, the areas that we want to watch, right? That we want to ensure that we can weigh in on.
So
we have-
us just being the town is not enough to, I mean, we, as a town, we exercise oversight on all projects. It seems like just us being the town government would be sufficient, but
We went through this, I think you were out, and to ensure that we have say,
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
we should make the motion to be a party.
Party
I
status.
thought we were given party status because we own.
Right.
Well, no, I understand. I was in that conversation. I
were here?
thought, yeah, I thought the party status was that we own it. So why do we have to justify it with all the rest of the stuff? But that's attorney stuff.
Ugh. I don't like it. I think that green energy is a higher concern than these other ones that we're talking about right now in this place. But oh well.
But
we should preserve our rights.
Yeah, we need to preserve our rights.
We're just.
I get it.
Just
We're
protect-
just
I get
saying
it.
we're concerned about these things.
Yep.
And we want to have the right to.
Oh yeah.
Intervene if necessary.
I read the paddler's complaint.
Do we need to,
I wouldn't paddle over that thing.
do we need to pick things that,
No, if you're happy with this
Just,
slate
just
of
a-
things, you,
okay. That was unclear.
yeah,
Like,
you don't have to
is there a limit
prioritize or
okay.
Right.
limit.
And we're not saying that they're wrong on those. We're just saying that we want to have party status.
Yeah. I just, for a moment there, thought we had to pick something. Okay.
These are the things we're looking at.
So far,
So
and
far.
we may add to it over time.
I think Fred's got his hand up.
Okay.
Fred has his hand up.
The former one, reaffirming the town supports hydro principle up front. I think it speaks to what Andy was saying, but the concerns that have been perpetual in this town, the impact on town properties, these adjacent properties, the downtown construction impact, separation of the Marble Works Park from the pedestrian bridge, the issues of the alterations in the eddy, and what happens with the logs and the fill that in for temporary construction. Can it be left in such a way that it replenishes itself and doesn't become a trap for debris, trash, and other things that are.
We just want to get party status.
Places. All of those are things that
He's keeping me from being done at 9, you know that.
I wrote Kathleen about some of that, I think. And I think one other reason to be an intervener or party is to be aware of what other interveners, like the Whitewater Group or perhaps other hydro interests across through or elsewhere. I think we still care about what water goes over the falls and not all through the sluice to the erosion of the Chesterfield Park. That's actually part of this. They need to direct the flow to this hydro project, not have it siphoned away on the other side. So I think being a full party enables us to be aware of what other parties are saying. And finally, one thing, I noticed in the application that some of the abutters' contact or address information is incorrect. Bruce Eichinger, who owns the property at 44 Main Street, their address is given in the application, 3703 South Edmund Street, Middlebury, Vermont. There's no South Edmund Street in Middlebury, Vermont. We have an abutter who hasn't been any notice at all.
That's probably their Washington State address with the wrong town.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on, Fred. I think we got the point. We want to be a party status. So approval of check warrants.
That would be me. Let's see. So I move to approve the total expenditures in the amount of $550,272.84, consisting of $434,677.63 for accounts payable and $115,595.21 for payroll for the period of April 24th, 2024 through May 14th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Select board member concerns, Stan?
Just joy over the vote for the library. It looks exciting. Can't wait to move on. Thanks.
Isabel?
Yeah, same. Excited about the library. Excited to see where our next steps are.
Fred?
I've had enough concerns tonight. Thank you all.
I'm gonna put you on the clock, Fred. Rod?
I was gonna bring up that Brookside Drive, Alice George, but I spoke about that. There was a resident from Halliday Road who came to the store and started talking about, he was furious that we let that Halliday Road in the condition it is, and why we are treating them like a stepchild, and he was extremely upset. He doesn't want to come into the select board because he doesn't like to be on the camera and stuff, but he wants us to do something about it, so that's.
Which part of the road?
He lives right next to, Lou.
No. What part of the road is he concerned about?
I don't know.
Okay. Ask him to put it in an email and send it. Will you do that? Just be more specific about.
He lives next to, Lou Mauricio. He used to be editor at Addison Eagle.
Oh, yep.
He lives right next to him, so I don't know exactly
Okay.
where that is. Yeah. And I'm happy about the library.
I've heard about that.
Heather?
I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel badly that we threw cold water on the folks from Rogers and Danielle. I'm glad that the bumps are there. I think that they've got real concerns about traffic calming. I think there's a couple issues. One is that for a long time, the design of roads was to move cars as quickly and easily as possible. And the idea of coexisting with other modes of transport wasn't primary in the way that we laid out a lot of our roads. And it's tough to retrofit that into the existing landscape after we've laid out the roads. I think that narrow lanes and other things to encourage people to drive appropriate speeds are a good thing. And I hope that we can tackle this in a holistic way and figure out the right places around town to deploy new tools. I think Heather's right that we want to make sure there's equity here. It's often the case that squeaky wheels get the grease. Squeaky wheels are often people who have the time and money and energy to be involved. And as a select board, we have the responsibility to think about the entire community and all of the people who have different amounts of skin in the game. That's all.
I don't feel like we threw cold water on. I think we threw reality on that.
Yes.
I mean, there was a request for us to endorse some permanent changes of, humps, I guess you want to call them.
Permanent humps.
Which is something we haven't tried and that
Yeah.
we don't even know if that's the right spot for it. We could put all of our efforts after one and solve one road, and then, if you had humps at every crosswalk all around town, how much time is that going to add to the driving of your snowplows and wear and tear on snowplows as they hit those bumps all the time? I'm just saying that it's a great idea.
Yep.
But it's what it is, and it needs to go to the people who have to deal with it. For the pedestrians and the people who live there, it works great.
We gotta know how much it's gonna cost
That's one thing.
and how many are we gonna put in? And do we have the money in the budget to cover it?
Only the expert can tell you how many humps you need. You can't tell.
I'm curious, they've got some of those humps on.
Do we have humps in there?
No.
Community?
In Burlington, they have humps there on, you go up through the north end, I don't know the name of the road, and you go past the, you go past.
In the old
all
north
way to
end?
the
Oh,
house.
yeah.
Yep. They have some of those humps where crosswalks are. I would just be curious to know from their public works department how they work and are they effective and, so.
I think Bill was the one that suggested the humps, and
Mhm.
that's why I'm saying talk to him. Just find out what he was thinking and wanted to try.
Okay. 7 minutes late, but not too bad.
Not too bad. The
Not
third
too
period
bad.
just started, Brian.
Third period started?
Bruins are ahead 2-1.
2-1
Yeah.
Bruins, yeah. Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, Fred.
Good night, Fred.
Night, Fred. Safe travels.